Okay, we're starting with a practice problem. This is one of those application problems. We just finished that day up yesterday. And the directions were to tell me, what does each one of these things mean? And I asked a kid, and he said this is the start amount, and he's right. Okay, got one?
Yeah, the minus says it decays.
That means it's decay. Very good. Tell me that in terms of bison. What does that mean about my bison population? Go ahead.
So it says the starting number of 5,000 goes down by 2%.
Very good. And that 2% you just said right there, what's that called? The 0.02, it's the...
I don't remember.
Tyler.
Would it be decay rate?
Decay rate, you got it. All right. Studer, what's that 7 mean?
The time, so figures.
And we're doing all our problems in years. If we were in honors, it wouldn't be that hard. They would just add in like divided by 12 if it was per month. You'd put in like that, but actually, sorry, it would actually be times the months right there. But anyway, we don't have to worry about that because we're just doing annual. And there's one last thing. It's got 2 words. It's the most complicated sounding thing, but that 1 minus the 0.02, which would be a 0.98, it's got a name. Raise your hand if you think you know. Seriously, nobody remembers? This is why I'm scared about this question on the test. Yes?
Is it like the commons?
It's the common something, yes. Can anybody remember the rest? Say it if you know it. All right, I've said this word like 6 times, but it hasn't stuck. So do whatever you need to do. Write it down. Is one the absolute minimum. Common ratio. That means if I take 2 numbers that are in the list of all the numbers, starting with 5,000, that when I divide them, that's a ratio, I get 0.98. So if I had something that started with 100, and then it went down 20% each time. The first time it would go down to 80, and then it would go down 20% of that, which would be 16, and so it would be 64. And then, anyway, that has a common ratio of when you divide this by this, 80 divided by 100, it's 0.8. So 0.8 would be its common ratio. So if I was writing the equation, it would start with 100. Then you put 0.8 here. And then you go to the x. And then if you wanted to do it 3 times, you could put it to whatever power you wanted. Okay, any questions about that? All right, here's a really weirder one. I've given you a 0.8, and that's the common ratio. What's the rate of decay then? The common ratio is 0.8. The way I think of this is I could have had 1 minus something in here. What do you say?
1 minus 0.2.
Yeah. So that means it's 20% decay. Are you going to be able to do that? Let's find out. Here's a question like that. That's an exponential. You should be able to answer these 4 questions about it. Start rate's too easy. Or starting amount's too easy. What's the common ratio? What's the growth or decay? I'm being coy because I don't want to say what it is. Rate. What's the growth rate or the decay rate? Which it's one of those 2. And what does x mean? I guess I'm just going to do those 3 questions. Pausing for a second, we answer those. And the last one, you got it?
Is it 25%?
It is 25%. The way I would do it is say 1 minus 0.25 is the same thing, and it tells me the rate I need. And it was decay, by the way. I think somebody said that. But. All right. I hope that's pretty easy. All right, here's the ones that are harder, in my opinion. And I want you to tell me the two things that this one did. Meaning, it was an exponential. This was the exponential part. And then it got moved. Where? The graph would move this way and that way. Who had that one right? Most of you. Tougher one. What kind of a reflection is that? And which axis does it reflect over? If I were you, I'd like draw it and go, okay, I know it's either a horizontal or a vertical. Hopefully you know which one it is. And then which axis am I going over when I flip that way? See, sometimes they'll say, which axis did this reflect over? Okay, so we were talking about high vo. Horizontal would be on the inside, but this was on the outside. So what does that mean? Vo, so it's a vertical. This was a vertical reflect. So then, which axis does it go over? What I do is go over here. I go vertical goes like that. Vertical's up and down, right? Which axis did I just go over? X. So it's over the X axis. So if the graph had been here, like this, whoop, then it reflects whoop, down there. Okay, next, there's an asymptote on all the graphs. It goes right through there, and it's on the x-axis. It's y equals 0. Another way to say that is it's the horizontal. I call it the horizontal because it's got a y in the front. So it's y equals 0 axis. Or y equals 0 is the asymptote. Okay, now let's see if you can graph one. XY charts are really handy for this. Let's make this 3 to the x, and then let's put a minus 2 on the outside, and give me an XY chart, and just fill it up with, why don't you give me 4 points, starting with -1, and then going to 0, and then going to 1, and then going to 2. That's 4 numbers to put in. Please put them all in and see what you get for y. I'll pause for a second and I'll give that a try. You're right, you put the -1 right here, but do you know what 3 to the -1 is? It's 1/3. -1 power makes the thing flip. Then I've got 1/3 minus 2. Not very fun. You will have a calculator for this though. So if you wanted to, you could grab your calculator and put in 1/3, so it's a decimal, 1 divided by 3. And then once you get the decimal on the screen, then subtract 2. Just got to be careful that you don't go 1 divided by 3 minus 2 without being careful that you're getting your fraction. So I'd put a parenthesis around it. Technically, it might have done that one right, but my best advice anytime you're using a fraction in the calculator is to put it in parentheses, because you make far less mistakes on your order of operations then. So then I get negative 1.66666, which I hope you know means negative 1 and 0.6 repeating is negative 1 2/3. That was a tricky one for the first one. All right. You know another one?
0.
Put in 0, what did you get? Let's do it together.
Negative.
Put a 0 here, what does this part equal? 3 to the 0.
1.
1, and then keep going.
Negative 1.
Yep, because 1 minus 2 is negative 1. 0 comma negative 1. Mr. Tyler, can you put in the 1 for me? Tell me what you get.
1.
And you are correct, sir. Right there, we get a 1. And I put it in a 2. Truckee.
I got 7.
9 minus 2 is 7. You are correct. And then I just have to graph these. But wait, where's the asymptote? All right, my advice on these for the asymptote is know that the asymptote always starts here. And then does it get moved up or down? Yeah, that minus 2 moved it down. So the asymptote would be down here at negative 2. Get how that happened? Y equals negative 2. Would have been y equals 0, but it got moved down 2. So then, final answer. Look at that. Kind of looks like an exponential, doesn't it? It's supposed to look like an exponential. That's a typical graphing question. All right. So for the rest of today, we have got a practice of the test, and then we're going to grade it. It all depends. I think you'll be able to finish it in time, so plan on we're grading it at the end of the hour. Okay, so that I'm going to put into the homework area under today's folder on Schoology. So I think I do want to review one more thing before we start that test. Pause for a sec. Okay, just the last thing is this, the hardest easy thing. What's the start amount? And you might be like, wait, what? Yeah, that's why it's tricky, even though it's easy. What's the start amount? Number 2, what's the common ratio? Number 3, what's the growth rate? Remember, you can always write that growth rate as like 1 plus something or 1 minus something. Maybe you should do that. You know the common wrong answer for start amount? 3. It's not starting at 3. It's whatever's in front here, so it's 1. Who knew it was 1? Raise your hand if you knew it was 1. Okay, good. More better than I thought. Common ratio? 3. And then the growth rate? So common for people to say 30%. No. 300%? No. I said you should write this as 1 plus something, you know, for growth. 1 plus 2 is the same as 3, and that means it's 200% growth rate. I think a lot of you would have got that wrong. Do you know do you get it now, though? Because 3 is the same as 1 plus 2, and the growth rate is always what's going beyond the 1. All right. Okay. So the rest of the hour, we're taking this practice test. I'm going to pause for a second. Actually, that's the end of the video. I'm going to stop it right there.